We are going to discuss concept of quality from industrial context, and particularly we are going to emphasize on functional quality. So we are going to learn how the quality is looked at from industry context, and is it possible to build quality during the functional process itself. We are going to look at the international definition from the standpoint of ISO 9000. It states quality as the totality of features and characteristics of a product or service that bear on its ability to satisfy stated or implied needs. Obviously, we are talking about stated or implied needs of the customers. So, on one side, we are talking about listing down all the features and characteristics of a product or service which is being offered to the customer. And we are on the other side trying to look at the ability of those features and characteristics to satisfy the customer's needs, both stated or implied. Now, quality has been defined as that this degree of satisfaction. Higher the degree of satisfaction, quality is stated to be better. Interestingly, if you look at the Japanese equivalent word of quality, that is hinshitsu. And hinshitsu, if it is translated into English, that means attributes, features, requirements. There is no superlative term called quality in hinshitsu. It is a matter of fact detailing of quality based on the customer requirement, which is captured based on requirements and features, maybe some of which could be dimensional, measurable, some may be subjective. So, what is a business process and its contribution to quality? If we are looking at business processes, particularly the definition of it, it is a series of steps which, through the use of resources, convert one or more inputs into one or more outputs that together create value for the customer. And when you are looking into a set of entities which actually convert through series of steps the input to the output which reaches to the customer, we get what is called popularly as CPOC model. There, S stands for supplier, I stands for input, P stands for process, O stands for output, and C stands for the customers. So, CPOC model, we are able to see the different entities and the process owners together converting the processes to the deliverable. The question is that can quality be built into these processes so that the quality as desired by the customer is received by him right the first time without making any rework? What will be the responsibility of the functionaries in order to work such a manner that through performing their respective activities properly, we are able to get the product right the first time? As discussed before, any organization has quite a few processes inside their respective functions. Some of the processes can be considered as direct process, where some of these processes could be considered as indirect processes. If we look into the direct processes, it starts from collecting the demand from the customers, which typically is performed by sales or marketing department, and subsequently based on the contract that is agreed between the customer and the supplier, a design is required to be made to fulfill the requirement. Of course, depending on the type of contract, in some cases manufacturer can straight away start manufacturing also. So depending on the contract, the different type of involvement from the part of functions may begin. And the procurement planning could start, manufacturing planning also could start, and subsequently procurement as a process could begin, and then manufacturing. After that, the delivery commences, which makes the product or service to reach the customer. However, though it is direct processes which are emerging from customers directly, and in order to materialize those requirements, whatever actions are directly taken, that could be considered as the direct processes. While the indirect processes are those which support in an indirect manner for commencement of the direct processes. Therefore, the direct processes to a great extent depend on the successful indirect processes for their objectives to be met. Some of the indirect processes have been mentioned here. For example, the product development process. It could be new product, or it could also be the modifications in the existing product. Inventory control and management, and inventory movement also, which if not done properly, the costing would definitely go up, and of course will lead to obsolescence of material, and the stockpiling may also result the blockage of money. Financial control, which involve the fund generation, which is a very important process for any organization, as without this, organization cannot commence any operation. And to top it all, the use of information technology and system support, and also other various other processes like quality assurance, quality control, measurement system analysis, etc., are also playing a very important role in performing the direct processes. When we are talking about these direct and indirect processes, we have to talk about their functionaries who would be having a set of activities leading to correct fulfillment of the objectives. And what we are discussing here is that if these direct process functionaries or indirect process functionaries, they are able to perform their respective processes, keeping the objective in mind right the first time, then obviously the quality is achieved at every stage, at every function, and therefore the organization also as a whole would be able to meet the customer requirement in one go and efficiently. And that leads to a lot of savings in terms of money also. And of course, with efficiency, the non-value added activities also go down. Therefore, when we examine the processes from the CPOC angle, which has been mentioned earlier, which starts from the supplier and end with the customer, we can look at the deliverable of the customer as preceded by several processes which have a close connectivity with one another. This can be considered as a big value chain, starting from the supplier, ending with the customer, and this can be analyzed successfully, and any shortcoming or the gap in the respective processes can be found out for continuous improvement in these processes. Inside the company, when you look at all these processes being managed, there are numerous processes which take part and play important role in this conversion of input to output. And some of these functions have been mentioned here. For example, procurement, which could be vendor development, subcontracting, purchase from the direct material supplier, off-the-shelf material supplier, then manufacturing, which could be looked at again depending on the type of product, different type of processes. It could be fabrication like welding, press. It could be the other machining operation, etc. It could also be electronic assembly, etc., depending on the type of product. And recruitment of the persons, both for
on temporary basis or permanent basis at different levels is very important, because without that, the right kind of skill, knowledge, competence cannot be brought into the company for successfully converting the input to output. Performance appraisal is also another important process which actually helps the people who are working inside the organization to understand how well they are working and what else they need to do. Product design also, it's we cannot emphasize enough about the importance of product design, process design, customer service, which may be needed after the product is shipped out, and even otherwise in order to understand customer's requirement, whether or not he feels satisfied. And there are many other. There is a functionary or multiple functionary who are accountable to manage their respective processes behind their functions. And we need to understand and recognize the fact that if these functionaries are able to do their work properly, plan their work properly, do their work properly, and deliver what is needed, there need not be any extra emphasis made for achievement of quality. If it is to be made right the first time, every time, then it is through the functional quality that it can be made. We would like to take a couple of examples so that the point can be noted down. And let's start with none other than Chief Executive Officer, who himself is a functionary. Unlike the entrepreneur who invests money in the organization, the CEO has some fundamental processes to be managed. What we have done is, for the sake of understanding, uh, one or two processes from each of these functionaries, or some of the functionaries, we are going to explain. And what I'm going to do now is that I'll take up one or two processes and then try to understand what it takes to meet those processes, and how the functionary would be able to, and what it takes for the functionary to be able to meet those process requirements, which if met will automatically lead to the achievement of quality. For CEO, as I was saying, that an entrepreneur is different from CEO, but there are cases where the CEO could be the entrepreneur himself. So let's take two processes here for CEO. One is the business plan. And for business plan, in short, we can say it is a timely development of long and short-term business plan in line with vision, mission, and strategic objectives of the company to meet its growth aspiration. So many things have been said in these few words. One is the timeliness of the long and short-term business plan development. And business plan is basically a part of the strategic planning activity. And this business plan has to be achieved in line with the vision, which projects the long-term position of the company in national, international, or the regional market. Mission is nothing but the line of business we are talking about. And we are talking also about the growth aspiration or other aspirations of the company, which should get reflected in the business plan. Now, in order to fulfill this requirement, what are the skill, knowledge, competency? And I have also kept here attitudinal part. But right now we'll be focusing more on the skill, knowledge, and competency. What kind of skill, knowledge, competency needed from the part of CEO in order to materialize this process that has been described here? And also, in order to meet this, are there any specific techniques which could make it much easier to attain? Let us discuss about a couple of these attributes. The CEO, no doubt, has to be a strategist. Without his knowledge in strategy, it will not be possible for him to plan the long and mid-term and short-term strategy. His leadership will be very important so that the company can seek new domain and develop new products in order to address the new requirements of the customers. Timely decision maker in case there is a demand in terms of change in the strategic planning, or in case any contingencies are being faced by the company. So timely decision making would be key to overcome those challenges. He has to be focused. Unless he is focused, the constancy of purpose, as also promoted by Dr. Deming, could never be attained. He has to be realistic because vision is virtually somewhere between something which is right there on the ground, and also it is something which is a part of it is in the dream phase. So, in order to achieve that, a CEO has to be very realistic and understand the practical problems and the challenges that are required to be overcome. So, he has to be realistic. He has to be pathfinder in the middle of all the difficulties. These are only some of the SKCS. And the techniques which can be utilized, one is Hoshin Kanri. It is a Japanese technique. And the other name of Hoshin Kanri, we can say in English as the policy management. And the policy management is nothing but it tries to take care of the long-term and long-term and mid-term strategies of the company, get it converted in terms of what are required to be done, and how is required to be done, who will be carrying it out at different levels, and what will be the measures, how those measures can be monitored. So it is just spreading it across that strategic plan, right from CEO to the supervisory level, and defining exact accountability for each of the concerned persons who are involved with the different strategies. Uh, there is a specific graphical tool, a matrix which is used for deploying the Hoshin country. It is called the X matrix. Catchball is also a technique in the same strategic plan deployment. It is used across the different level uh, to pass on the information from top to bottom and also from bottom to top. Uh, this clarifies all the issues related to the strategic management. And when finally the strategic plan uh, is converted into a meaningful plan, then most of the problems which have been spoken out by people at different levels have already been sorted out. Let's talk about another process of CEO. It is a very important process, congenial work culture. And the congenial work culture actually addresses the company's value system, apart from the some companies which also may be practicing the cardinal eight, the value system in the form of cardinal principles. So the process description could be creating a joyful yet professional work environment through timely recognition, motivation, review, alignment of all functionaries to encourage cardinal principles. For example, formal and informal communication. I've just mentioned here a couple of commonplace cardinal principles which can be applied for all type of companies. Fellow feeling and respect for each other, generating new or fresh innovative ideas, etc. In essence, if we take a close look into this particular process, this talks about a joyful yet professional, that means objective driven work environment, which considers a human being as human being, and how the CEO is able to monitor a motivated work environment where people feel they are needed and recognized, and the alignment between all functionaries, because one function alone cannot really make the deliverable um, to the customer as needed. So it is a teamwork which finally makes the delivery to the customer. So I'm sorry. So this particular process, in order to get managed, the important is that as part of work culture is proper implementation and understanding across all levels of the organization the basic cardinal principles, which are often cherished by the company as a prized position, because these cardinal principles help an organization at the point at difficult times to fall back on these principles in order to come out of a crisis. So, what are the SKCAs needed for implementing this kind of congenial work culture? It is a leadership again, as described above. The values should be personalized and seen in the CEO. Otherwise, it will be a mere talk. He should be discreet, energetic, disciplined, sense of equality should be there so that people do not feel marginalized and discriminated. And he should at the same time be able to mix with all the levels at ease. Some of the techniques here that can be used is planning tools, motivational techniques should be made known. So these are some of the processes of CEO, what it takes from the part of CEO in order to materialize these processes into a meaningful output. And if we judge the quality outcome of these processes, then if these are taken care in the form of SKCA techniques, that is the how part of it, then definitely the output may come to a great extent right the first time. So more the CEO is closer to the SKCAs and techniques and the process steps, it will be easier for him to move closer and closer to the process description. So the question may be asked that how to know that whether the CEO has been able to meet the process outcome or not. For each of these processes, there should be KPIs defined, key performance indicator, and then in numerical terms, they can be measured, in some cases in subjective terms, by which we will be able to understand that whether the CEO is moving closer to meeting his process objectives or not.
After considering CEO, let's now go into maintenance department as a process functionary. And here also we have considered two processes from maintenance department. One is breakdown maintenance and another is preventive maintenance. As we understand that both the processes are key to functioning of any manufacturing industry efficiently. So breakdown process, if we take its process description, is to restore the machine in proper working condition at minimum time whenever a breakdown occurs. So here we can understand that the primary point is moving around restoration of the machine, and in a sense that the functionality of the machine should be restored as quickly as possible whenever the breakdown occurs. So in order to do that process properly, in order to meet the objectives, the concerned maintenance person should have the skill, knowledge, competency, as he must be analytical, because without analysis, he would not be able to find out the cause of the breakdown, where it is required to be taken care of. So therefore, his technical knowledge is also very important, and he must have diagnostic skill in order to diagnose the source of the problem. And along with these SKCAs, it is also important that he understand the techniques. For example, he can adopt breakdown analysis like YY analysis, etc. He should be in a position to understand flow charting so that he understands interrelationship between sub-assemblies and assemblies. And all these things can be done if he has a properly made servicing checklist for each of the fault that he frequently faces. Similarly, a preventive maintenance as a process also is a key process which is required to be looked after by him, and the process can be described as to prepare preventive predictive maintenance plan and execute to reduce or eliminate breakdown of all the machines and related equipment. This preventive maintenance is key to efficient running of an organization, because if the preventive maintenance is done properly, the occurrence of the breakdown, as stated in the earlier process, will definitely go down. And what it takes to do the preventive maintenance properly, he has to be here also analytical, because based on the corrective action planned for each of the breakdown in the breakdown maintenance process would lead him to this root cause of the problem, which through analysis he should be in a position to find out and take care of the
problem at its source. So again, he has to be technical. He must be in a position to do the time planning properly, so the entire preventive maintenance activity can be performed properly in time, and with the objectives in mind. He should be in a position to meet in the required time frame. And in order to perform the preventive maintenance, what all techniques are required to be adopted by him? YY analysis, as we stated earlier, is also another important technique for him. Preventive maintenance checklist, operator maintenance planning is required to be done by him, and he has to also train the concerned operators to carry out the operator maintenance. Predictive maintenance would definitely help him to understand whether the machine is really going down in terms of its performance by various parameters. So this will be also another technique which will help him to perform preventive maintenance properly. So here also we are able to see that if the process is described properly and the steps for carrying out the process is also written down properly, step by step, in a systematic manner, then we are in a position to also keep the KPIs for each of the process. And if he is in a position to understand the performance with respect to KPI vis-a-vis the data, he would be in a position to understand that whether the objective of the respective processes are met or not. And in case of gap, he can always move back to the process step. He can modify the process, or he can really remove the gaps in performance of the process by taking appropriate action. And through these kind of action, he can take the process on the path of continuous improvement. Another process which can be considered here is sales. And here we are going to consider one process related to sales, and that is current business for existing customers. As we know that for sales department, maintenance of the current business by interaction with the existing customer is a key to meeting organizational strategic plan. And any reduction in current sales will definitely lead to the company to a major financial issue. So this being one of the important point, he must be in a position to understand through the defensive quality methodology how to retain the business, and whatever new businesses are getting generated by the customer, he must be in a position to understand that in advance through proper interaction with the customer representatives, and advise the concerned person in his company to get ready for it, be it for design modification, new product development, or the changes in the manufacturing processes, etc., by proper intervention at the right time. What would be the process description? Ensure retention and development of current business so as to meet the top line and bottom line of the company, means the revenue generation and also the profit of the organization, with agreed strategic plan which has been decided by top management through appropriate intervention between customer and organization in order to protect organization's interest in the competitive manner, and also by taking timely action in consultation with management against captured threats and weaknesses in current business time to time. So one important aspect which is coming out here is that his ability to be able to understand the threats and the weakness in the current system, and based on that he should be in a position to plan along with his counterpart in his organization to take care of the threat and the weaknesses which are emerging from his analysis. So what it takes for him to be ready for this kind of processes? First of all, he should be in a position to write down the process steps, and his skill, knowledge, competency could include his product knowledge. As you understand, these days the sales are totally technically oriented. So he should be in a position to have a good technical grasp on the product. His competitors' technology analysis, he should be in a position to understand any changes there, any threats coming out because of competitor progressing in terms of adopting and new technology aspects which might draw the attention of customer, and if the customer considers that technology adopted by the competitor to be better than the current product, so maybe a chunk of the business could move from one particular supplier to another supplier. So he should be in a position to understand what kind of developments in regard to the technology happening at competitors' place. And companies' capacity and capability also are required to be understood so that he can timely advise the concerned persons in the company to be ready to enhance the capacity and capability as required by the products of the customer. What kind of techniques could be adopted by him to perform this process? Pew chart is a known technique which helps us to select the right technology, right process, etc. It's a very simple methodology actually. And as we discussed earlier, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat analysis would definitely help to come out with the proper strategies to counter the strength and weaknesses and encash on the opportunity and also uh, counter the threat. Capacity planning is also an important methodology which can help him to carry out his job properly. So we are able to see that all the process owners need to follow what is called the Schuhart's plan, do, check, act model to meet the objectives. So we start with the plan wherein we come out with the gaps in the previous methodology or system and come out with a preventive action and carry out or execute the plan in do stage, check against the objective whether we have been able to address that or not, and finally, in order to take care of the gap between the plan and the check, further actions can be planned and maybe a new improvement plan can be adopted and the same can move around the PDCA loop once again. This Schwartz PDCA model could be adopted by all process owners to meet the objectives of the processes. And by these kind of approaches and the detailed analysis of the processes and collection of the KPIs, etc., the process owner should be in a position to come out with what we say right the first time, every time quality without any further intervention from any other department. This is in crux is the model of the functional quality, which will take any organization on the path of continuous improvement and in a much more efficient manner.